welcome to this episode of Around West Warwick High. My name is Brian Lynch, and I am currently a junior attending West Warwick High. And during this podcast, I will interview most of the staff members of the school and learn about their jobs and a little about their life outside of school. And today, my guest is Mr. John Cunic, and he is one of the two assistant principals of the school. So how are you today?
I'm good, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. So what led you to your profession as being an assistant principal?
So I took a very long road to being an assistant principal. I actually worked in higher education in student affairs for 10 years. So I did student conduct and I worked in residence life. And I was an assistant director at many different schools. And then I sort of had an epiphany that the further I was moving up in the chain of command, the less and less impact I was having on students. And so I had always thought about being a teacher and decided to change careers actually 10 years ago in 2010. And so I went back to school. I got my teaching certificate in English and did my student teaching, and then worked at Middletown Public Schools for 8 years, 5 of those as a English teacher, and the other 3 as the director of college and career readiness. From there, there was no real opportunity for me to move in Middletown, and so I started looking at assistant principal positions, and so I applied and was offered the job here, and so I've been here now for my second year.
What's something
spending freely on plastic. And so I think one of the great things that we offer here is the Teens and Money class. I really didn't have a concept of money at 18, and definitely spent like a wild child in my early 20s. And so if I could go back and tell my 18-year-old self anything, it would be just be a little bit more fiscally responsible, and maybe have a better understanding of money.
Are there any resources that have helped you along your path to where you are now?
Really, I think it's just my own mentors, both in a professional setting and in an education setting. I think back to my elementary or high school years and teachers that were really left a big footprint on my own path. My advisor and professor, Dr. Gillen, when I was in college, was hugely instrumental in me really discovering my love of English. And my sisters also have been a great resource. They are older, and so they've been a good sounding board and a good point of reference, and good mentors as well.
So what's one book that you would suggest to a student?
I think one of the best books I've ever read is The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. And it really is one of those books that I reread. I had the pleasure of meeting him several years ago and attending a book discussion. So that's definitely one book like for fun reading. And as an English teacher, I really always enjoyed teaching Wuthering Heights by Bronte. So those would be my 2 picks.
So you said you have 2 older sisters. Do you have any more siblings?
I do. I have 2 older sisters. One lives here in Rhode Island as well, actually right down the street from me. I have another sister that just relocated to North Carolina, and I have a younger brother who lives in New Jersey.
What's your hometown?
My hometown is Denville, New Jersey, which is about 30 minutes outside of Manhattan. It's a small town, and it was actually a summer lakeside community for people from Manhattan. So we have a lot of lakes in our town, and so it was a lot of lakeside living that people that would escape the heat of the city in the summer and come to Denville. And so over time it's grown, but it's your quintessential Norman Rockwell town. We have a main street with a pizzeria and an ice cream shop and the post office and a grocery store and a drugstore and a department store. Yes, it's like that song Downtown.
Are you married?
I am not.
What's something in your life that you have failed at?
Something in my life that I failed at? I knew this question was coming, Brian. I failed physics my senior year of high school, and I think that really had an impact on me. And I actually think it's part of the reason why I can sometimes empathize with students that are struggling here, because I know what it's like to fail a class and try and dig yourself out of that hole. For me, with it being my senior year, really put a lot of pressure on me. It actually put my graduation in jeopardy, and also played a big part in my college acceptances. So physics is not my forte. It is something that I failed at, something that I continue to fail at. But I think I learned a lot about perseverance and overcoming adversity.
Have you ever thought of a business or invention?
I have. I often think about being a college consultant, and so working with students, not similar to the Varsity Blues scandal, but working with students and their families for the college application process.
You have three things as being a principal. You have a house, a desk, and a car. So which one would you choose to clean first?
I would clean my house first.
Mm-hmm.
I make my bed every morning before I leave, and all the dishes are always done, so.
I don't. What's one thing that you're curious about right now?
That's a great question. I think professionally, I'm curious about the direction that education is going in. It's changed a lot in the 10 years that I've been in secondary education. I'm curious about learning actually how to make honey, so I contemplate getting bees and getting my own nest and making honey. There's a lot. I think about going back to school and furthering my own education. I think about going back and learning French. I took French in middle school and never did anything after that. So those are some of the things that I think about.
Cool. Do you enjoy to watch sports?
I am not. I'm more of an entertainment person. If I watch a sport, I need to be there at a live event.
So you're not going to watch the Super Bowl?
I will watch the Super Bowl. I go more for the food than I do for the game.
Who do you think will win?
I lived in Missouri, actually, for several years, so I'm actually rooting for Kansas City.
Cool. What's some advice you would give a student in school right now?
Use an agenda. Write everything down. I think we rely too much on technology, and sometimes things get lost in technology. And so I think the paper to pen method, you have to actually take the time to write it down. You see it in front of you. So I'm a big advocate of using an agenda. I still use an agenda as an adult.
What's the most stressful part about being an assistant principal?
State testing, which is coming up very quickly and very rapidly, and just trying to orchestrate the whole day, and also following the regiments and the requirements that the College Board sets, as well as the state of Rhode Island.
As the assistant principal, what's the most fun activity you've been able to participate in?
Honestly, I love going to in terms of working with the faculty, I love going to the 9th grade team meetings and just seeing the dynamic between each team color and the teachers, and how they interact and how they work to ensure student success. For a school event, I actually love Winter Ball. Unfortunately, I missed it. I had surgery, and so I wasn't able to attend, but I love the Winter Ball at Aldridge Mansion. I just really like the venue and seeing everybody dressed up. I also really enjoy the homecoming pep rally. I think just seeing the spirit that everybody has and the enthusiasm and seeing which class can be the loudest.
You're one of the judges of that. So
I am.
Do you have a pretty good gauge on how loud things are?
I do. I think it's actually not as easy to judge as people think, because your ears are ringing after the first class. So, but it's a lot of fun. It's a fun event.
Well, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For all you listeners, I'll be back next week with someone else.
Thank you.
Thank you.